game, that they should be competitive with the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, and we're going to learn, even more about where the Seahawks are out this weekend as they're welcoming the Panthers into town with Andy Dalton at quarterback. I mean, this should be a game where the Seahawks should win it, but you know what? They lost to them last year, and nothing's a sure thing in the NFL. So we'll see, how good really Seattle is. Didn't look that good week one, came back week two, looked a little better, and now it's kind of put up or shut up time for Pete Carroll, and they got to get their pass rush going too because it's been ineffective at best so far.
All right, let's move on a little bit to our Block B here, which is the quality of play early in the season. One thing I want to get into, I hate to say because I'm going to sound whiny. What do you think about the referees so far? I thought, a lot of the stuff that went on last night, the Tibbs penalty inside in the red zone where they called him for illegal use of hands or pass interference or whatever that gave San Francisco an extra shot at the end zone. I thought that was a borderline call. I mean, yeah, maybe it was 6 yards, maybe it's five, but I mean, I don't know. What do you think overall about the referees right now?
I mean, they're not haven't been great. There's been certainly some questionable calls, but there always is. I mean, there's so many damn rules now that they've kind of made it, almost too complicated for these guys to even keep up. And I've always been a proponent of the sky judge, where we get the calls right. If there's a mistake made, it's quickly corrected. There should be an eye in the sky watching these guys and fixing it. And that's been my take on it for a long time.
I agree with you. That's a good idea because the fact of the matter is, why wait for a red flag to be thrown at? Isn't it more? And then you only have how many challenges a game?
Right, and sometimes they don't throw it because they don't want to waste it. They want to keep them in their pocket for later in case there's a bigger play. But that's not how it should be. If there's a call that's missed, if there's a mistake that's made, let's get it right. People are betting billions of dollars. People are spending the hundreds and thousands of dollars to watch these games. Hell, you got to own 5 streaming services even to see a game anymore. And we can't get a call right because we're scared of hurting some ref's feelings. Get a guy that's in New York watching the effing game or at the stadium with all the angles. So, a lot of times we can see stuff on TV that they can't. And even if they have more angles where they've got the all 22 or the sideline, the 2 sideline shots and the end zone camera, give them all that stuff so they can get the damn calls right.
Hey, wait, I got an idea here. How about this one? How about getting more than one people? How about like hiring? I'll volunteer. You want to pay me money to sit there and you pipe it into my house, or I'll even get on a train and go to New York City and do it. I have no problem. I can guarantee you that would be maybe the easiest job in America to fill.
Yeah, no, I don't think you'd have trouble getting candidates, and the NFL can pay well, man. They're the $1 billion industry.
Oh God,
these teams are worth 6, 5, 6. Even the Commanders, shit, they were worth $6 billion, and they suck. So I mean, imagine what these good teams are worth. Let's pay these people. Let's do it the right way, and let's get somebody making sure that the calls are correct because it's 2023 for God's sakes.
Yeah, we've got the technology. Let's use it.
Correct.
All right, now let's look early season play. The first week especially, the thing I noticed, and maybe because I was watching them, because I watched the San Francisco Pittsburgh game, and the Dallas Giants game, and it just seemed that the defenses, at least in those 2 games, and Cleveland against the Bengals, it seemed like the defenses had a big advantage, at least in the first week of the season, maybe the first 2 weeks, depending on who you're talking about, that the defenses have the advantage. Is that a repercussion because the offensive players are playing so little in the preseason, their timing is off, and whereas the defenders just kind of go out and play, react, do their thing? Do you think that affects it?
I definitely do. I mean, these guys, the starters don't play, a lot of them at all in the preseason. Some of them, if they do play, they'll play maybe one series in one game, or maybe one series in 2 games, or 2 series in one game. They're not really getting into, real flow the games, and so it's not going to look perfect once the season gets going. I mean, is it still sellable? Yeah, we're still watching it, so it's not that big a deal. But I mean, there's just such a great risk where, like in the Jets situation, their quarterback goes down on the fourth play of the season, and now, let's be honest, I mean, their season's over. I'm sorry. I mean, I hate saying that. I'm a Jets fan, but I mean, Zach Wilson sucks. I told you he sucked when he was at BYU. I told you he sucked the first year he played. Guess what? He still sucks. They're like, oh, he's been watching Aaron Rodgers. Well, I could go stand next to Aaron Rodgers. That doesn't mean that I can throw the football down the field anymore after I stand next to him. I mean, that means nothing. And, he's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers. He'll never be Aaron Rodgers. He wasn't good in college. He's not good in the pros. And I guess he should do what he is good at, which is, his mom's friends, because that seems to be the only thing that he's really, taking care of these days with his 3 picks.
I used to think that Baker Mayfield was the most hated quarterback in the history of football. Zach Wilson has wrested that title away from him. I mean, I've never heard, like last night, listening to those guys on the broadcast, how they attacked Zach. I mean, it's almost like the NFL players take him as an insult because he's so bad. They can't figure out how he got drafted. They feel like he's an insult to the efforts they put forth to have great careers. It's almost like they don't want him being recognized as a football player.
Well, I didn't understand it at the time. I told you I went and watched him play live here when BYU traveled here to play the Knoxville to play the Vols. I saw him play live. I watched him on tape. I just didn't see it. I was like, what are they? Who thinks this guy is a first round talent? And I never saw it. I didn't think that he would actually get taken in the first round. And then when he went number 2 overall to my team, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, you're going to draft some guy after you go through the Sam Darnold debacle. You're going to draft somebody that's worse and has less skill than him. And that's what they did. And you see the you see the results. I mean, I think back to that game last year where they were playing the Patriots, and God, their defense, held the Patriots to 3 points for 4 quarters. And then that guy takes a punt return, back to beat him 10-3. And I was just like, man, if he had done anything the entire game, they could have won it. So, I think that's part of it. There's not enough good quarterbacks to go around. These guys are, they're writing off quarterbacks quicker and quicker and quicker.
Oh,
so you got to have, that's why there's all these young guys playing, because like you play, Josh Rosen 4 games, he sucks. Get him out of here. Justin Fields, he started 12 games. He sucks. Get him out of here.
What was Trubisky put back in?
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it is crazy. I want to let's finish off the Zach thing for a minute. The thing about the Jets, and this is the one thing I want to say, I'm a Giant fan, but unlike my baseball situation where I out and out hate the Yankees as a Met fan, I don't have animosity towards the Jets. The only time I really had a problem with them was Rex Ryan and his big mouth. But to get on with that, I don't have a problem with the Jets. And I was semi-rooting for the Jets when they picked up Aaron Rodgers. I told you, we had conversations. I said how my opinion of Rodgers did a 180. I thought he was an arrogant ass. And the more I got to watch him and know him and how he dug into it, I was like, hey, this is good for the Jets. It's good for the Jet fans who have been suffering. But Joe Douglas did a disservice. The fact of the matter is, if you're going to go out and get Aaron Rodgers, and he's a 39-year-old quarterback that could go down at any time, and you should have had a plan B better than Zach Wilson in place.
Yeah, that's when you go out and you get Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
That's where you go out and you get Jacoby Brissett.
Right.
That's when you go out and you get Teddy Bridgewater. All of these guys whom were available. When you're going all in on this guy and you're throwing 50 at the time, they were throwing $59 million at this dude who's 40 years old, hasn't really been that hurt throughout his career, but he's 40 years old. You go all out to try and win a championship. And what do? You leave the guy who, because he sucks so bad, you had to go get this guy and spend $60 million. You leave him as the backup.
Yeah,
you don't even keep Mike White around
Yeah.
who at times could win a couple of games for you. If the other team's secondary blew, he could win. And no, you don't even keep him. You just put Zach Wilson back there, and that's why they're in the situation they're in.
How about this? One more thing about that is the fact of the matter is that if nothing else, Mike White might not be as talented as Zach Wilson, but the team believed in him. Remember the T-shirts they were wearing last year? Remember they were wearing them Mike White T-shirts in front of Zach Wilson?
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
That's what I'm saying. And what does that tell you? That another team went out and got Mike White and spent pretty decent money to bring him in. Nobody wanted Zach Wilson. They couldn't trade him for a nickel. And somebody else comes and gets Mike White. That shows you right there. You accept your losses. You cut the guy. You pick up somebody else, and you move on. You don't hang on to him because we drafted him. We need to still spend time molding him. In this one particular instance, I'm going to tell you there ain't nothing that can be done here. Okay, and they know it. I know it. Everyone knows it. You cut this guy and you move on, and you bring somebody in who can win you a few games at least, or at least keep you in games, like Minshew, like Bridgewater. I mean, it's not that tough to figure out. You get somebody who's played before. I mean, Jameis Winston, go get him.
Right.
He's not the greatest quarterback in the world, but hell, he's an
upgrade.
He's buried on the Saints depth chart. And was a guy that, was the Saints starter not too long ago. So you go get somebody like that, you bring him on your roster, and then you have insurance. It's like, what was it, a couple of years ago when the Cowboys, they spent, $6 million just to bring in Dalton because they wanted to make sure they had somebody that could, play if Dak went down. And then it ended up happening. So it's a good idea to get these guys. And this just shows you how inept this organization is.
Yeah, if you're going to sell to your fan base that we're serious, like you said, we're putting all our chips to the center of the table, then you make sure you have the best hand available to win. And they didn't do it. So that's what I'll say about the Jets. Now back to these young quarterbacks. I agree with you. It has become like I always use the analogy because it seems like people are like this and fans are like this. It's like an Xbox game. Oh, I lost the first two games. Let me trade my quarterback to this. I mean, look, Kenny Pickett did not look good against San Francisco. But you know what? Nobody's looked good against San Francisco yet this year. Number two, he didn't look good against Cleveland. Cleveland held Joe Burrow to 82 yards passing.
And 3 points.
Right. So, I mean, maybe it's the fact of the matter, like the Giants, they don't have an offensive line. You can't get your running game going. The quarterback has no time. He's only made, a handful of starts, 9 starts in his NFL career, and you expect him to be Terry Bradshaw? Yeah. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous. And let's be honest, they won, man. I mean, the defense definitely bailed them out with 2 touchdowns, but they're winning. Like, you don't just replace somebody when you're winning. My biggest thing with them is, I'm sorry, but I got to admit I was wrong. I thought Najee Harris would be the best. I thought he'd be the next Derrick Henry or close to it with him coming out of Bama. He was so good. That last year at Bama, catching the ball, running the ball, pass blocking, everything. He had this burst. He had this hard to tackle, innate ability to make plays. And I just haven't seen it since he's been in the NFL. I mean,
his first year, he was pretty damn good. I mean, I thought he was pretty damn good his first year. Maybe not maybe not going to be Derrick Henry good, but he was pretty solid. I think right now their offensive line is a real big issue.
Yeah, I mean, they've got better pieces on it this year. They're just still not able to run the football. I mean, 10 carries for 41 yards. That's your day at the office, running the ball, and they have to go. I mean, that's Kenny Pickett throwing the ball 46 times. I mean, is that what you really want to do?
No, you don't want to do it. No, you don't.
He also was sacked 5 times for 34 yards. So, is he great? Not really, but you got to give him help, and you have to give him weapons around him. Deontay Johnson is hurt. He's not playing. Allen Robinson, I'm not sure is still a great wide receiver. You got George Pickens, but
you got to get Freiermuth. You got to get Freiermuth involved in this too.
Yeah,
you got a all-pro type tight end. You have got to get him into the mix. And I don't think he's had more than 5 targets in any game yet.
No, I don't think so. And you look at this Cleveland game, and the offense, didn't do much for Pittsburgh. I mean, I think Najee Harris had 43 yards himself in that one. I think they had 55 yards rushing. And it's just, it's not what we're used to seeing with
That's not Pittsburgh football.
Pittsburgh football, yeah. And then, Kenny Pickett threw it 30 times even in that game, 46 in the Niners game, 30 in this game, sacked twice in this one. I mean, it's just, I'm looking back through all the games, and it's just like, he's got to have some help.
It's like Canada just wants to get him hurt. Just leave him out hanging out to dry.
That's another issue is, Canada. I'm not really in love with his play calling abilities, his scheme, or anything that he's doing. And I never really have been.
No, but the whole thing is, if you have a young quarterback, you got to have, as we see all over the time, or you like Mac Jones, greatest example from last year. You got a young quarterback. I don't care how good he looked his first year. You got to have a competent play caller, offensive coordinator, and quarterback coach to get him and keep him right. Because once they start losing their confidence, and the old to use the old Sam Darnold, they start seeing ghosts, and then it's off to the races, and their careers are over faster than they began. Now, your Justin Fields is getting a hell of a lot of problem. How can I say blame for what's going on with the Bears? And it seems to me this Bears organization, including their defensive coordinator, having to step down because he's under a FBI probe.
Yeah, it's a disaster. This whole franchise is a disaster.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a disaster. I don't know if you saw the story that came out today that somebody broke into the stadium and stole $100,000 worth of equipment that's used to take care of the field. Did you hear this?
Good. No, I didn't hear that today.
John Deere tractors, mowers. First off, I don't believe, as Rich Gannon said on NFL radio, I don't believe that Soldier Field actually has $100,000 worth of equipment to keep it going because it looks like crap. So I don't think they actually put that much effort into it. But nothing's going right. I didn't like the coaching hire, to be honest with you, when they made it. I don't think he knows what he's doing. That's what Justin Fields said in the interview the other day, and I don't think he was dogging his coaches. I don't think he was deflecting blame. He certainly took blame the entire press conference, but the guy straight up asked him why he's doing these certain things, and he said, "Well, because that's what I've been told to do by the coach." And all of a sudden, he's throwing the coaches under the bus. He can do nothing right there. Is it Buckeye bias? Is it they just want to blame the quarterback? I don't know, but let me tell you. Their line sucks. I don't really like any of their wide receivers. Their defense is horrible. Is Justin Fields playing great? No, but I think he's doing what he was told to do, which is not run anymore, obviously, because he was like 7th in the NFL rushing last year, including running backs. He was 7th overall. And this year he's ran like once for 5 yards as far as called runs go. So, use what the guy is good at and develop the offense around it. You don't have to run him every play, but run some plays where he's running the ball, run him out into the flat and have him throw on the run. That's what he's good at. They're just trying to make him a pocket passer, and he's not that.
Especially I don't know if the coaching staff of the Chicago Bears has been watching football over the last 5 or 10 years when the RPO has become the weapon of choice for most of the teams in the NFL.
Yeah, watch the Eagles play and then try and run some of the plays they run, because I'm not saying he's Jalen Hurts. He's not. He's a different player.
You don't know.
But he can run the same offense for sure.
Look, we'll never know what he is because unlike Zach Wilson or Sam Darnold, we've seen Justin Fields play well.
Yeah.
If you give him the right situation, he will play well. But you have to use his skills. I mean, you can't make him Tom Brady. He's not Tom Brady.
The only way that Justin Fields is going to have a successful career is if and when he gets out of Chicago. If he survives, physically playing in Chicago and maybe they move on or maybe he has to get traded, whatever. If he gets on another team, gets with a good play caller, I'm thinking it doesn't even matter. But if he gets out of this situation and can go somewhere else, I still am a believer in this guy. I understand it doesn't look good. I understand that sometimes there's guys that are open that he misses. But go back and look even this week, the pass to Claypool in the end zone. I mean, not a lot of guys can make that throw. And you're still seeing flashes with all the crap surrounding how bad this team is and how bad this franchise is. You still see flashes of what he can do. And I think if you can get him the right coaching, I still think this guy is salvageable. Not saying he's great. I'm not defending him. I'm kind of over that at this point. I'm not going to argue with people about whether he's good or not. But I'm just saying it's hard to tell who. It'd be hard to tell if anyone was good playing on this team.
Let's face facts. I mean, nothing against Justin Fields, nothing against anything. But now we have gotten over the past 5-6 years, it's become the trend of successful college quarterbacks to leave after 1 or 2 years of success, outside of a Trevor Lawrence, outside of, a few players. They leave after 1 or 2 years. So you don't really know what you got. But if you have raw talent and they've had success at a high level at major universities, maybe it's worth developing. But you have to get somebody in. And I know there's not too many people out there, but an Andy Reid type, a McVay type, one of these guys that can figure out what the quarterback can do and then design the offense around him. I mean,
Let's think about it with a really good example, okay? Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
No one wanted this guy. He sucked. He went to Carolina because no one else wanted him, and the Browns wouldn't even trade him, and they were trying to Shanghai his career, which they did a real good job at. And then he goes to this horrible Panthers team. Let's be honest, it didn't look real good, okay?
No, it didn't.
To the point where they were like, let's get him out of here. Everyone's right. He does suck. And they get rid of his ass. Well, some people aren't morons out there. There's a few folks that actually know what the hell they're doing. And Sean McVay goes, man, we'll take him over here. He's better than anyone I've got that can play right now, considering Stafford's hurt. And the rest of these dudes are bozos. He brings him in. They win. He's off the plane for like 22 hours, and they're winning games with him. Right. And now look at him. He's 2-0 in Tampa Bay. So, you gotta have the right coach. You got to have the right scheme, and you got to have decent players around a quarterback for them to be good. You can't just, put it all on one guy. That's not how football works. No. I know that's how the media wants it to work, but that's not it. And it's bad because you get on a losing team and the quarterback just takes so much heat. It ruins guys very quickly now.
Yeah, let's face facts. Bad news sells. I mean, like I said, 2 years ago, everybody wanted Daniel Jones out of here. Last year, Daniel Jones, you got to sign him. They sign him. He has one bad game, one good game, one average game. I don't know about this Danny Dimes. Is he worth the money? It's like, come on, give him a chance to look at put together a viable amount of games. If he's going to suck, then we can say he sucks. But at least, it really, there's too many talking heads now talking and none of them are, and everybody just wants to talk for no apparent reason. They don't go out there and want to interview anybody or find out anything. And it's a shame that these players get caught up in that meat grinder. You wanted to get into the three major rookie quarterbacks, Stroud, Bryce Young, and Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson right now is injured. So
he's got a concussion, but I do, I like to come on here and, alert the press when I'm right. I also like to admit when I'm wrong, man. I did not expect it to go at all good right away with Anthony Richardson. I watched him in Florida. He was erratic. No doubt he's one of the best athletes I've ever seen at the quarterback position, but it just, he was just all over the place for the Gators, and he would look good one week, he would look horrible one week, he would look really good one week, and then you just didn't know what to expect.
Right.
And so far, he's been pretty dang good.
Better than expected.
The Colts. He's done better than expected, and he's done better than I anticipated. Let's just say that. Now against the Texans the other day, He was doing fairly good running the ball. He had 3 carries for 35 yards and 2 touchdowns, and was doing great. Now he's got to learn not to get walloped because he's a big dude, and
you don't want to see Cam Newton too.
No, man, you've got to get down, and here he is. They played 2 games, and he's already got a concussion and is out for this week. So that's got to get fixed really fast. But I have to admit, he's looked pretty good. And, Stroud in the same game, 30 of 47, 384 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's a pretty good look, too. 103 rating.
Yeah.
Not bad. Now, you got to also factor in he got sacked 6 times. So how long the hell is he going to last? And for some reason now, last year the Texans, all they could do was run the ball. And this year they can't run it at all. And I'm confused by that because Dameon Pierce is still back there. They got Devin Singletary.
Coach.
They can't run the ball. Yeah, I get it. It is a new coach, but it's weird.
The thing that, like you said, that's a big concern to me is the amount of sacks all these quarterbacks are taking early in the year. And it goes back to the offensive line play. Somewhere along the line, I know they sit there and they talk about, the left tackle. Well, the right tackle can be as important as the left tackle. I know that's the blind side. I know the legendary thing, but the whole thing is to get 5 players that it'll kind of act like a fist, act all as one, communicate well, know exactly what they're doing. And I don't know if it's a coaching problem or they need to get some better offensive line coaches in the NFL because, I remember the name, I can't pronounce it right. Dante Scarnecchi was with New England forever, and he could fit anybody in. They lose an offensive lineman. The next guy goes in, and he does just as good a job because he knew how to coach offensive line. And maybe that's why we're having all this problem. Like going back to my initial thing with the Giants, of not having an offensive line since 2011, the last time they won the Super Bowl. A good offensive line. Maybe it's the coaching.
Yeah, it's also tough to find these big guys, man, that can move. They don't grow on trees. Guys that are 6'6", 320 pounds that can run. There's just not a whole lot of them. And I'm talking about like the Texans, because we were just talking about the game with those 2 quarterbacks. Laramie Tunsil was banged up. I don't think he played. If he did, I don't remember him being out there for the whole game. In fact, I don't think he was out there. And they've got some other guys. Titus Howard is banged up. He's on injured reserve. Their other starting tackle, Juice Scruggs, one of their centers, he's on injured reserve. Charlie Heck, a backup tackle, is on injured reserve. Kenyon Green's on injured reserve. They've got a lot of guys out, and they weren't that good to begin with. So you start getting some dudes banged up, and let's be honest, these pass rushers get paid a lot of money too. That's their one job, is to get sacked. So, hopefully the lines will start to gel a little bit and protect these guys some, or we're going to be in the world that we were in last year where there's a lot of backup quarterbacks getting played. But yes, I've got to admit, I was impressed by Richardson and the way that he played. Did he run it better than he threw it? Yeah, but he still, was effective and played really good in week 1 also. I have to admit it. I did not expect that. And he looked pretty good. Stroud, not as good week 1, but looked much improved week 2. And I think some of these guys are going to get good. Bryce Young, I'm not ready to really make a judgment on him yet, just because the Panthers, they were picking up near the top, just like the Texans, for a reason. And I still think he's a good player and will be good. Hasn't looked great so far, but they got everything there is brand new. The coaches are brand new. And, it's going to take some time, I think, for him to get used to not playing at Bama anymore.
Well, and the other thing is, is Frank Reich is kind of under the microscope too, after his Colts years where, they kept bringing in veteran quarterbacks to try and fill the gap and get them, and, thought that he was just a veteran quarterback away from being competitive. We've seen what he can do as an offensive coordinator, and he had some success in Indianapolis. I think Frank Reich is the right coach to be with him because he was a quarterback. He's a quarterback-friendly coach, and he'll put the people around him that he needs to make him successful. Will it be this year? I don't know. But the good thing they have going for him, if you look at it, all three other teams, even though they're all 2-0 in that division, are kind of all in the same boat. They're all searching for their identities. So Bryce Young might take him a month, maybe 6 weeks, but you might start to see a change in him just because of the division he's in.
Yeah, no, I think he'll be fine. 22 of 33, 153 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. I mean, it's not; those aren't flashy numbers, but I like what he's doing because if you dig in, the Panthers have the number 8 defense in the entire NFL right now. Why go in and make a bunch of mistakes? Why throw it 50 times and make him look bad when you're competitive and you're in the game? They've been in both these games. It's not going to take him long for the switch to flip the other way and him to start figuring out what he can do and what he can't do in this league. And I think he's going to be fine. The one thing I will say about that division, though, the Saints are 2-0, and they're going to have Alvin Kamara coming back after next game. Nobody else has a Pro Bowler waiting in the wings like they do. So I like the Saints so far. Derek Carr hasn't been great, but let's be honest, he's not great. We didn't think he was going to just win Super Bowls by himself. But this got a good defense, and I like this roster that the Saints have compiled.
Yeah, and they have 2 good wide receivers now. They have a lot of good things going for them. The Bucs, a little bit of a surprise, but I'm happy for Baker Mayfield. Do I think it's going to be a joyride where he's going to take Tampa Bay to the Super Bowl a la Brady? I don't think so. But it would be nice to see him at least gain some of the respect back he used to have when he took Cleveland to their first playoff win in forever?
Yes, since 1993.
Yeah, so I mean, it would be nice to get that monkey off his back and let him show. He may never see the Super Bowl. He may never sniff the playoffs in the next couple of years or forever. I don't know. I just hate seeing a Baker Mayfield who I think is he a little chippy? Yeah. Is he a little chirpy? Yeah. But he has some definite talent. I've always loved his story. You know that from being a walk-on at Texas Tech, a walk-on at Oklahoma, a Heisman Trophy winner. Did he win the big one in college? No, but I don't think that was all his fault. But, I mean, the fact of the matter is everybody was looking to tear him down before even seeing what he could do. And the big-name pundits wanted to tear him down before he threw an NFL pass. I would like to see him get the chance to show that at least he was a competent NFL quarterback. He
had 1 year where he was hurt, and everyone wanted to just act like he'd never done anything. And I could not figure that out at all. But I believed in him, and I kept my faith that if he got on a team that was halfway competent, that he'd be fine. And I got to tell you, the Chicago Bears are not the greatest defense, as we've already discussed, but they're getting paid to play football. And he was 26 of 34 for 317 yards and a touchdown. 9.3 yards a pass. That's pretty impressive. I thought he was moving around pretty good. He ran the ball when he had to the last 2 games, and he's playing pretty well. And you got to remember, he's also got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And when you've got 2 dudes that you can throw it to, that helps quite a bit. And he's got at least 2 that he's been able to get the ball to. But that's not surprising to me the way he's played. Now I don't think the Bucs are going to win a bunch of playoff games this year. I just don't think they're that good all the way around. But I think he could be a quarterback there for a few years. And if they add some more pieces next year, they're in a little bit of cap hell right now with the problems with Brady's contract and some of the other guys they took on to win the Super Bowl. It worked, but they're in a little bit of a situation. Once they get a little bit of cap relief, I think they can add pieces and win with this kid.
Yeah, is that one Super Bowl going to be satisfactory in 5 years, or we're going to look back on it and said you sold your soul for a one and done?
I don't know. Ask the Rams.
Yeah, exactly. Going back to the injuries. One of the most vicious injuries you'll see, Chubb's injury this week. I saw a still frame of it, and it almost made me vomit. let's two questions here. First of all, Kareem Hunt, have they dialed his phone number yet?
He's already been signed
by Browns.
Yep, they
All right,
signed him. They signed him 2-3 days ago.
Okay, I didn't see that. I
Yeah. They called him like during the game.
I would have been.
If I was him, I would have been like, yeah, remember that deal you offered me before the season to come back, and I laughed in your face. Multiply that by about 10, and then I'll come back and play for you. I know. I think he only got like $4 million, but
I want some incentives.
I hope he's got some incentives in that contract because he certainly held a lot more of the chips this time around. You know what I'm saying?
Especially with the fact that Deshaun Watson still looks rusty.
He looks bad. And it's not only just the playing on the field; it's how he's acting. Getting 2 personal foul penalties and shoving the ref. I mean, this is the guy. This is why you don't pay this guy $230 million guaranteed. They already knew about the lawsuits and everything that was going on. They already knew about some questions in his character, and then they give this guy the money like he's going to lead him to the promised land, and they wonder why they lose games at the end. It's not surprising to me. And can he get back to where he was? I don't know. It's tough to sit out of, to be one of the best at something that's very hard to be good at and then not do it for 2 years and expect to be the same.
And as a friend of mine and I were talking, we went to lunch today and we were talking about Deshaun Watson specifically. And I said, it's the rust plus you get older. And as you get older, your skills decline. You're not as fast as you used to be. Things happen to you, and especially if you're not working at it. It multiplies on you. The thing about Deshaun Watson is going to bother me, and maybe we'll get the book 10 years from now or 12 years ago. What the hell happened to him? I mean, here was a high character guy. There was never anything said bad about him in college. In fact, he was the kind of guy you wanted your son to be like. And all of a sudden, he's down in Texas. He's a half away from this, beating the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. And you think this is the next great superstar. And then one half of football and it's like he did a crash and burn after that. I don't know where it happened. I know he had a tough year where he played, but I don't know. It's beyond my ability to analyze what happened to this guy.
Well, I can tell you what happened. He decided for whatever reason that he was pissed off at the organization, and instead of toughing it out, he quit. He quit on his team. He quit on the franchise. He quit on himself, and he stood on the sidelines and collected $17 million, $18 million and did nothing. And, he hasn't been the same since then. So, that's when I lost a lot of respect for the guy was right then when he quit and chose not to play because he was pissed about something. I don't care, man. You signed he had just signed that contract, giving him $150 million 2 years previous or a year and a half previous. And then all of a sudden he wants to be traded and is refusing to play. Well, you shouldn't have signed the damn contract then, bro.
Well, like I said, it's a shame that happened to him, and we'll never know to what extent everything happened. But what we're watching right now is a career that could have been something special turned into another what would have happened if this didn't happen question. Let's talk about some of the teams that maybe are a little struggling right now out of the gate. We've talked about the Bears, but let's talk about the Broncos. Russell Wilson and the Sean Payton marriage. Off to kind of a rocky start. Can Russell be straightened out?
Do I think he can? I mean, yeah. I don't know. I don't know how. I'm just not sure how good he really is at this point. And it still looks a lot like last year to me. I mean, it really does. Something was going on in Seattle. There's a reason why they moved off of this guy that won them, took them to a Super Bowl and won them a Super Bowl. There's a reason why they went off of him. And, I get it. They scored 33 points. But 14 of those were in the first quarter, and then it didn't really look the same after that. And they lost to the damn Commanders with a kid who's played 3 games now.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm talking about. You can't beat some team that's got a guy in his 3rd game. That's concerning to me. Maybe it'll get better as we go along, but I don't know. I haven't seen anything that leads me to believe it. He's about a 50% passer. He got sacked 7 times because he's hanging on to the ball too long. That's always been a kind of a problem for him. And he's running the ball too much too. I mean, I think he's going to get banged up sooner than later. And the Broncos have not looked good. They lost to the Raiders in a close one. They lost to the Commanders in another close one. But the same thing keeps happening. They keep losing.
Yeah. And then we got the Chargers, who this coach has got to be in the hot seat, man. You're wasting Justin Herbert. I mean, to be 0-2 for the Chargers is unforgivable with that quarterback and that offense.
I'm not surprised. I don't know why anybody's surprised. This coach, this is the same guy that blew, 33-point lead in a playoff game and then fired his offensive coordinator. It's like, oh, yeah, was it the offense's fault or it's because your defense gave up 35 points in 2 quarters? I think, this guy is not, to me, a coach that has proven that he can win games, and I'm not sure why he's still the coach there. I mean, I just hope that they get this fixed pretty quickly because they're wasting this young man's career. I think he's a really good quarterback. I thought he was the best quarterback coming out that year. Whether he is or not, I guess, is debatable. But I think he's damn good, and I think he's getting wasted.
And the other thing is, it's not like they're not going out and giving this guy the tools. Bosa, Khalil Mack, the defensive back from the Patriots,
J.C. Jackson.
It's not like they're not spending money to give him what he wants. So there is no excuse for this guy. He's got to be on the hot seat.
He can't fire anybody else. He's fired 2 offensive coordinators. He's fired a defensive coordinator. He's fired a special teams coach. I mean, there's no one else to fire besides him.
And then we got another 0-2 team, surprise the Bengals. Joe Burrow, how bad do you think this leg is? And we know that without Joe Burrow, they go from being a top-flight team to an also-ran. So how long is it going to be for the Bengals before they get this straightened out? Already, Zach Taylor is getting a little under the gun because he doesn't have the guy who can bail him out.
Well, I'm not – my take on Zach Taylor.
Yeah.
He was about, 15 minutes from getting fired before they won the reason they got Joe Burrow was because they sucked so bad under Zach Taylor that they had the number 1 pick in the draft. And so, he's looked pretty good. Not the first year so much, but, since Joe Burrow's gotten comfortable in the NFL, Zach Taylor's won a lot of games thanks to Joe Burrow. But, when Joe's banged up or when Joe's not playing, this is what you get. And so far it's not looked great. Now, against the Browns, that looked like a lot of rust for Joe. And then, towards the end of the Ravens game, he looked a little banged up. But this was a closer game, 27-24.
Right.
Joe had 2 touchdown passes. I think he was starting to feel more comfortable. It's just, I don't know who did their schedule, first off, giving them the Browns and the Ravens to start their season, in division rivalries when Joe hadn't really taken any snaps all offseason. I also think, missing both of their safeties, Von Bell being gone, not to mention the guy that went to the Falcons, Bates, the other safety who was a Pro Bowler. I think that has, started to take its toll on their defense. And, it doesn't look the same.
Well, wait till week 14 when I start crying about the Giants having to face the Eagles twice in the last 3 weeks. Then we'll talk about a schedule.
I'm just saying it's been a tough start playing the Browns and Ravens back-to-back weeks when those are 2 of your biggest rivals and your in-division opponents when your quarterback hasn't been able to throw the ball or take a snap all offseason.
All right, and let's get to the Vikings now. 0-2. We know Kirk Cousins is in the last year of his contract. But this was the wide open division. Detroit, unfortunately, lost their second game. Right now, Green Bay's 2-0. The Bears we talked about. The Vikings are 0-2 as well. This Viking team what do you think about them? Is it just a blurb? But last year, remember, they were the team that won, I think, the most close games.
Yeah, they won like 11 one-score games. And then, Aaron Rodgers is finally leaving, and they have an opportunity to, step up and take over and win the division. And what do? They cut Dalvin Cook, who's gone for 1,400 yards plus in every season he's played in. They let Eric Kendricks walk. They let Patrick Peterson walk, who played very well for them. They let Dalvin Tomlinson leave, who was their best run stuffer. And, and then they let the pass rusher Zadarius Smith leave. And they wonder why they don't look as good. And I'm like, well, you had a chance to, keep some of these guys, maybe sign some new guys, do something. And instead, you let all these players walk when it's your potential opportunity to take over, the division. And I was very, very confused by their offseason. Didn't understand why you would let it, take a team that won that many games last year and then, tear it apart. I didn't get it, and I'm not surprised they're 0-2. I kind of expected them to be.
And then we have, let's see, we got the Pats. Mac Jones, I think he looks a little bit better than he did last year. I think Bill O'Brien's giving him something to work with. I'll be interested to watch them against the Jets this week because we know that the Patriot defense is going to give Zach Wilson a world of trouble. Can the Jet defense, which is really, really good, do enough to make this like a 10-7, 10-3, 13-10 game, and maybe something the Jets can steal? And are the Patriots kind of heading towards the sunset of the Belichick era?
I'm not ready to say that yet. I mean, they played the Super Bowl, could have been winner team in the Philadelphia Eagles, who were winning the Super Bowl almost the whole time until the fourth quarter, and lost a close one, 25-20. And then they played the Dolphins and lost by, a touchdown. So, they played two really good teams and have looked better, in my opinion, than they looked last year on offense. So I think let's give them a chance to turn around. I mean, Jones was 31 of 42, throwing the ball a little bit more than I expected, but they had to do that to try and keep up with the attack that Miami's rolling with right now. So, I'm not ready to give up on these guys. I'm still not in love with any of their skill guys, Devontae Parker, Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne, even Juju. None of those guys blow me away.
I'd like to see them get Gesicki involved a little bit more. I think Gesicki's kind of a hybrid. He reminds me more of like I don't know if this will come to you as a viable thing. He reminds me of an Ed McCaffrey, only he plays tight end. He's got a tight end body, but he kind of plays a wide receiver style game.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of struggled to get involved his last year in Miami, and it's kind of continued here in New England, where he did have 5 catches last week against Miami, so I guess that's good. He was targeted 6 times. He had 5 catches for 33 yards, but just want to see him, make a big chunk play, maybe get in the end zone. I don't know. Just want to see somebody do something for this team. But I do like their 12 personnel package with Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki. I think those guys are serviceable, tight ends. They need something to get going, and I think playing the Jets this week will be exactly what the doctor ordered for their offense to get right.
All right. Before we get into power rankings here, I want to get our top five and terrible. I think a terrible two here. But one last thing, Jordan Love, not Aaron Rodgers tearing up the world, but also not being terrible.
No, he looks pretty good. I'm not 100% surprised, but I am, very pleased with how he's played, even in the loss. I mean, they were right there in that game, and he looked really good week one. So dude, we just didn't really know a lot about. I didn't expect him to be great or expect him to be bad. I really didn't know what to expect, just because of the lack of, times we've seen him on the field. But I think this guy deserves a shot. He's been waiting in the wings for a while. And I think he, that's a pretty good offense for the way that he plays. And I think they've done a good job so far of kind of tailoring it to what he does well.
Let me ask you a question before we get off the Packers a little bit here. Do you think, in a way, that LaFleur is a little relieved now because, he took over the team with Aaron Rodgers there, and it is not picking it at Aaron Rodgers at all. But expectations when you have a Hall of Fame style quarterback are through the roof. Now maybe with this he can relax a little and coach Jordan Love up without the expectations. The pressure comes off him a little bit, where he can maybe try and put his stamp on this team. Do you think LaFleur finds a little bit of relief in the fact that he doesn't have Aaron Rodgers anymore?
I don't know if you're ever happy that you don't have a 3-time MVP. I mean, I don't think that's ever a cause for someone to get real excited. But, I do think he probably likes the expectations being lowered a little bit. I think people were expecting them to struggle mightily this season, and anything, above 500 is going to be deemed a good coaching job. So in that aspect, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's look in the rankings. Who got off to a fast start? I gave my top five as the Niners, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, and the Ravens. It's easy to say because they're all undefeated. Not like I'm, doing anything outlandish here. But the Chiefs and Bills bounced back in the second week. Chiefs maybe, but they were playing against Jacksonville. The Bills took care of business and did what they had to do. Who do you think your top five would be?
My top five are the Niners, Cowboys, Dolphins, Chiefs, and Ravens. And then my number 5A or 5B, I guess, would be the Eagles. And then 5C is the Bills. So I actually gave you 7 teams when you asked for 5, but that's kind of because
I just mentioned those two. I mentioned those two teams, so it's fine.
Okay, well, I've got the Ravens, the Eagles, and the Bills all tied at 5.
Right.
So I couldn't really, shave anybody off because those guys, I have those guys sharing that spot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. When we look at these teams, let's just take a quick look around them. Niners, we talked about. Cowboys, Diggs, how bad is that for them? I think as long as Micah Parsons is healthy, that defense is going to be healthy. Dak right now is playing a clean game. It's the best thing you can say about him. He's not making the mistakes. If he keeps playing that way and not giving the other team short fields, and that defense is playing as well as they are right now, there's no reason to think that it won't be a dogfight between them and the Eagles in the East. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Trayvon Diggs is obviously a really, really good player, and to sit here and say that he's not going to be missed is just 100% untrue. That being said, they won 40-0 and 30-10, thus far in their 2 games. So him being out there or not wouldn't have made that big of a difference. Maybe when they start playing, some more of these better teams, it might. But they're honestly pretty solid in the secondary with the signing of Stephon Gilmore, who still has shown signs of life. They've still got Jordan Lewis, who's started a bunch of games in this league. Deron Bland has proven to be a pretty decent corner in his own right. So I'm certainly not thinking it's a good thing that Diggs is gone, but I think they'll be able to survive as long as they don't have too many more injuries back there.
And the Dolphins right now, it wasn't a shootout against the Chargers, and then they took on the Pats and won by 7 points. Um, Tua looks pretty sharp. Um, Overall, the Dolphins, what do you think about them? What do you think about their defense?
Yeah, I mean, they're one, the one spot that's somewhat concerning with them is the defense so far, I think. The offense, it looks as good as any, if not the best. So they just have to have, some defense in order to, keep winning ball games. And, they did do enough they held the Patriots to 17 points, but they gave up 14 in the fourth quarter. So that made it a little tighter than probably people were expecting. But they still held the Patriots, who I think have a decent running game. They held them to 88 yards, and 25 of those were from Mac Jones. So if you take in Ramondre Stevenson and Zeke Elliott, who had shared 20 carries between the two of them, they only had 63 yards. So they're doing a pretty decent job against the run. And I like what I've seen out of the Dolphins so far. I mean, Tua looks good. He seems to be healthy, and they're keeping him upright. And then obviously Christian Wilkins is a baller down low. They need Jalen Phillips to step up just a little bit more. But I like their linebackers, David Long, Jerome Baker, and Bradley Chubb. Those guys are as solid as they come. I do think they miss having, the guy that they went out and got in the offseason in Jalen Ramsey. I think that would have helped them a lot. But these guys they got Eli Apple still back there, who's played a lot of games, and Xavier Howard, who's one of the best in the business. So I think this defense will be good enough to let them continue to win.
And then I just want to get into one more team here before we wrap it up. I was going to do terrible too, but I don't think that's fair to the Texans right now. They're starting a new, but even though this team is starting a new regime, coming off the game against the Giants, the Cardinals, Joshua Dobbs, your boy from Knoxville, did a hell of a job in the first half. Looked like a competent, if not good, NFL quarterback. Second half, maybe not so much, but I mean, it's not like he has a lot of talent to work with there. The Giants made some improvements in the second half, made some adjustments. This Cardinal team is the biggest mess I think out there right now. I mean, we always talk about the Carolina Panthers. We talked about the Jets and their mistakes and stuff, but this team, between the Kyler Murray situation and everything else, this team I think is the worst team in football right now. What do you think?
Oh, it's by far the worst franchise. I mean, this is a franchise that went out and gave Kyler Murray a huge, huge extension and a raise at the time, making him the highest paid player in the NFL. They went out and gave their coach an extension and a raise. They went out and gave their general manager an extension and a raise. And then they fired both those guys, except the quarterback. They fired two of the three, a couple of months later. So it's like, what the hell are you doing? And then we're going into this season, and, they know Kyler's not going to be ready. They still have Colt McCoy on the roster. They get, Colt's a little bit banged up, but they think he's going to be okay week one. They give him every rep in the offseason, all the mini camps, all the, off-season activities, most of camp. And then, a couple weeks before the season starts, they cut Colt McCoy and trade for Josh Dobbs. I think it's a complete injustice to Josh Dobbs. You looked at him out there. He's got some talent. He's a very smart guy. He's a good, talented player. He was a hell of a college quarterback. And it's not fair to him to bring him in on this crap team and not even give him the offseason to work with them.
Right. I totally agree. And the other thing that's a shame, and this is where, Goodell and, the just preserving the shield and all this other crap. It's 2 games into this season, and this team has almost, if not anything else, they've almost come out and said they're playing for the number one draft choice. Caleb, the USC quarterback, and why can't I know he works for these owners, but if I was another owner too, I'd go to this family, the Bidwell family, go, do you really want to be part of this club? I mean, you had Kyler Murray, you drafted number one. Now that, and like you said, you mismanaged his career. Now you want to take another number one. What do we have to do? Do we have to spoon
Well,
feed
they
you
they
a team?
drafted Josh Rosen 2 years before that
Yeah.
in the top 10, and then gave him 4 games at the end of the year, and then decided that he was
But
done and that they wanted Murray. And now Murray's not good enough. They're going to draft someone else, number one. And what are they going to do with Murray's contract? They can't even get rid of him if they wanted to.
But what does the Bidwell family want the rest of the NFL to do? Open up their cabinets and say, just pick the players you want off my roster, because apparently you can't pick their bread for your own roster. So take our stars.
Well,
Yeah.
they suck at drafting, so they go pick up AJ Green, who's 42 and has a bum leg. They go get JJ Watt, who hadn't played a full season in like 6 years. They get, they had Larry Fitzgerald still on the team until last year, who was 47 years old. I mean, they thought they were going to have a sustainable product with these guys that were limping into the end of their careers. I mean, I'm not surprised that they are where they are, and this team has been horribly mismanaged.
It has, and it's I can't feel sorry for him, but I just feel as an NFL fan ashamed that 2 games into the season, a team is obviously tanking. I mean, I'm glad for the Giants, even though the Giants almost gave them the game, but if it's
we knew they were tanking when they released their quarterback 2 weeks before the start of the season and went out and signed their starter off of another team, traded for their starter from another team's, depth chart. I mean, that's ridiculous.
What makes the NFL special is that every year we see unexpected teams become playoff teams. The Giants did it last year. In other years, we've seen teams that were unexpected make it all the way to the Super Bowl. And for a team to be tanking 2 weeks into the season is unforgivable in my estimation. So, anyways, let's before we sign off, tomorrow night, big game as the Buckeyes take on the Fighting Irish. I know that you're going to be on the Buckeye side, and I'm an Irish fan, not as much as I used to be, but I am an Irish fan. I will be watching and rooting for Sam Hartman. He's probably the best quarterback that Notre Dame has had.
That Notre Dame has purchased in the last several years.
The thing is, if they obviously in the Brian Kelly era they couldn't recruit one.
No,
so,
they still can't.
No, I don't understand it. You and I have discussed this at length in hours to our own boredom and craziness, that you have a team that's on national TV every year. If you, for God's sake, Rick Mirer was mentioned in the Heisman Trophy candidate competition when he was at Notre Dame, even though he sucked. Brady Quinn was mentioned as a Heisman Trophy candidate, even though he sucked. If you're a Notre Dame quarterback and you're halfway decent, you will be in the conversation for the Heisman Trophy, and you will probably get drafted. So the fact of the matter is they can't get someone to go there is beyond my ability to understand.
Yeah, well, at least they acknowledged it and just went and paid for someone to come there from the portal, and instead of trying to, make something out of nothing. They just admitted it and moved on. So we'll give them that. But I remember when, we'll see who wins, man. It's gonna be a tough game, but I got confidence in my team, but they got to go out and do it, and they got to prove it. Neither one of these teams has really played anybody yet, so we'll see who's good after this ball game.
This is a, I've been watching Notre Dame football since 1970, and the great coaches. Eric Parsegian was there before I was born or knew what football was, but Dan Devine, all these other coaches I've seen, the good ones, have that turnaround statement game victory. Marcus Freeman, this would be a nice one for him to get, because once you win one of those type of games, the alumni gets off your back. You can run the program. Ty Willingham never got that. He never got his signature win. Bob Davies never got his signature win. This would be a nice win just to have him get off the alumni and the press and the Subway alumni and all the other former players get off his back and let him coach. Because until he gets that signature win, that Notre Dame rah, shake down the thunder and the wake up the echoes and everything else you want to talk about, he's always going to be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, well, it's easy to talk about it, harder to do it. So we'll see if he can get it done. But if he wins this game, that'll be a real victory. But I'm not sure what to think of either one of these teams just yet, because, like I said, neither one of them's really played anybody to speak of, and this is going to be the first true test for both of them.
What's going on Sunday on Man Coverage?
We are going to break down all the games, FSU and Clemson, and also Oregon and Colorado and Ole Miss and Alabama, and then we'll obviously get in pretty hot and heavy to this Notre Dame game. We're going to have Steve will be on with us, Steve Belsari, former Ohio State quarterback, and we'll break it down pretty good. But so far the Irish have played Navy, Tennessee State, NC State is okay, I guess, but they struggled a little bit against them, and then they played Central Michigan. So we'll see what they got coming into this one, and should be a good game. But we'll break it all down Sunday at noon.
Hey, Navy had a couple of Heisman Trophy winners in the 60s.
Yeah, his name was Roger Staubach.
And Joe Bellino. All right, my friend, have a good weekend. I will see you next week. Enjoy the football, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good, bud.